One second. Hold on. It's not connecting. Okay, okay, okay. So let me just do a test, 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 test. So, anyways, let's, okay, hold on just one moment, please. All right. So, anyways, yours is being done a lot earlier than usual, but I don't know why. Just saw your name and skipped ahead at good amount of people on the list. Just make sure I turn some better lighting on. But yeah, so first thing, 29 degrees, sun is very interesting. So that's a little bit better. Um, to have so basically, welcome to your reading. Um, so just staring at your chart here, I'm gonna share the screen real quick. Lighting's a little bit better now. I had to hit record because I was just like not gonna start unless I just hit record and then just jump right into it, kind of procrastinating. But yeah, so here's your chart. Let me actually turn the clock on. Hold on one quick moment, my friend. Yeah, so you see obviously what stands out is a tremendous amount of energy in the 12th house in Taurus. Um, I don't think I've ever seen this massive a stellium, a Taurus stellium. A stellium is when there's three or more planets in the same sign. I don't think I've ever seen one this massive in Taurus in the 12th. I definitely have not. And it's interesting because, I'm a karmic astrologer, so I'm trying to piece everything together, right? And with my experience, the first thing that stands out is South Node in Pisces. And let me guess, you don't have any water in your chart. Nope. Yeah. So I see that a good amount. And it makes sense why I would see that with my clients because the South Node in astrology represents the been there, done that, right? It represents our karmic tendency. It's like us on default mode, right? One second, I'm gonna let my cat in. It's snowing outside. A little bit cold. One second. Ina. Okay. Oh, she's here. He's here above the whole time. Yeah. So basically, having your South Node in Pisces in the 10th house, it means you were the archetype of the past life mystic. That's you, right? Um, and that the element of water, which rules intuition, empathy, emotions, um, people who have very heavy water charts, are people who feel things very, very deeply. And it's not that you don't, right? Um, but it's that you've already gotten past that level in past life. The fact that your South Node's in Pisces, you have no water planets. There's a lot of been there, done that. With the element of water. Now, interestingly, having the 12th house, right, is the house that's connected with Pisces. So it's a water house where you have all these Taurus planets. And it's a very karmic house, but some one astrologer might look at a chart like this and say, "Oh, you have no water. You probably lack intuition. You probably lack. It's probably difficult for you to be connected to yourself emotionally." Um, there's a number like they could say all these things, but what I would say is that you've mastered those things in past lives, so it wasn't necessary for you to come into this life with those personal energies, if that makes sense. Like imagine you get really like you've it's like if each element is a video game and you've maxed out, you've learned all the karmic lessons, or you know, it's not a priority for your soul, right? The water energy. So you'll still really resonate a lot with the sign Pisces. Um, One, because of your 12th house nature, two, because of your south node. A lot of times we grow into our north nodes, right? So the north node is when we talk about destiny and what we're trying to become this lifetime. The south node is sort of like the launching point, right? And the north node is the mountain we're trying to climb. So in the end, we're trying to balance out these two. Your north node is in the sign of Virgo and it's conjunct Saturn. So and you have a square with Neptune. Very interesting. Very interesting. Huh. That's super fascinating. I'm gonna pull something really quick. Hold on. Hold on just a moment. In my mad collection of books. Oh, where is it? Where is oh, sorry, Ina. Sorry, Ina. Sorry, Ina. Okay, here it is. I want to read one thing. I rarely read in these readings, but I want to read this to you because it's put very eloquently here. So when you have a planet that's squaring, right, in a 90-degree angle or close to the nodes, that planet, that archetype, that planet represents a skipped karmic step. So what's super fascinating here is that Neptune is the planet that rules Pisces, your south node. So my gut is that if the south node ruler is squared by the south node itself, that there is a lot, there's a karmic tendency to not be grounded enough in the material. And it's a big, big life lesson of yours, especially with Saturn, right, on your Virgo IC or Virgo North Node with the IC there too. It's a massive mission for you to refine a sense of spirituality and connection to God or spirit, just whatever that relationship is for you or whatever that means to you, that's what you're meant to find. Um and yeah, with in Saturn, which is a planet that is about material, it's very, very much a material planet, right? It's very much about um the material plane in the sense, and very it very Saturnian people that you meet, right, who have like a lot of like a heavy Saturn chart are not the types to believe in astrology, right? They're very logical. They can be a little bit cold. They can be great at business and very onerous, conservative. But overall, it's the planet of karmic lessons, and it can be quite restrictive, melancholic. But to have that on your north node, it means that you're here in Virgo, so it's an earth sign, and Saturn is related to earth, right? It's like in past lives you had big dreams, big ideals, but you sort of lost your spiritual way in a sense, or like your sense of, because I said the past life mystic at the start, but I didn't see the square with Neptune. So if you can think of the south node as in different ways. One way is, um, you know, you can think of it as like having mastered the sign, or and it's a lot of times it's a mix of both, right? Or more negative, some of like the lower aspects of that sign being common in past lives. So with Pisces, the big ones are lack of boundaries, escapism, um, not having confidence in oneself and in one's dreams, like giving up too early, having big ideas. Like it's like the person who has like the amazing Harry Potter-esque idea, um, but then doesn't have. Virgo represents the execution, the step-by-step, day-by-day routine that's needed to turn these Piscean dream world inspired, you um, ideas that come from your imagination, come from your intuition, these downloads, this connection to spirit into something physical. So that's like a big karmic thing for you. A karmic impetus for you is to turn your it's to take what's in the mind, and you have Pluto fifth house too. So there's a big creative destiny in this chart with Leo in Jupiter and Leo as well. That backs that up too. And yeah, and really turn it into something to really understand that, like, it's all about consistency, and it might not come easy. It might not come easy. And yeah, so I'll leave it there for now, and let's see what it says here. So when Neptune is square the nodes, the unresolved material pertains to the subtle issues of one's sense. And I'll stop when I want to kind of like talk about a sentence or something. So the unresolved material pertains to the subtle issues of one's sense of ultimate meaning, one's dreams and ideals. The skip step can therefore revolve around the loss of meaning, profound disillusionment or despair that leads to loss of life force and will. In some cases, the negative ramifications are so extreme as to lead to catatonic disassociation. So one of the low energies of Pisces, yeah, it's like we talk about. I was thinking about this day when I was walking in the snow. The difference between over idealism, or even like imagination and intuition, right? And how sometimes Pisces energy can fool itself in self-sabotage, right? So with the square here, and then it goes on to say, the skip step may also represent an unresolved dream or ideal that the person has suppressed or been unable yet to fulfill and now demands exploration. And then analysis of the evolutionary axis, which is like, the Pisces south node and north node in Virgo, will illustrate the nature of these unfulfilled dreams and aspirations. So when I look at that and I say, okay, so your south node is right on the midheaven, right? that that speaks to a karmic tendency of being more public oriented, more in the masculine, right? Even though Pisces is a very feminine energy, more, like if you think about like the work work excuse me, like work home life balance or whatever it's called. I can't think of of how to say it. Like the balance between your work and your home life, or the balance between your inner life and your outer life, right? There's been more of a push towards, there's been more of an emphasis on the external. And it's interesting though, because the sign Pisces is a very internal sign. So, huh. But regardless, the way I see it more is that the way I would kind of put these together is that perhaps there was this fear related to something spiritual, and because of that, maybe you chose to be more distracted with your external life, as opposed to kind of looking within, right? Which would be the North Node on the IC. And it could also represent, Pisces South Node could also be someone that, was just like partying a lot. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Someone who, had a life that was so mutable, but like lacked the organization, right? Like that could be it too. Like that's one way I could see this, right? Like a socialite type energy, like the person who's just like always going with the flow, but because they're doing that, they're not gaining this firm understanding of who they are. And the square with Neptune can also, so now it's making sense to me, it's coming through. It can represent, because Pisces is a chameleon energy, it could represent the blending in with other people's energies that aren't yours. And because of that blending, losing that spiritual essence, right? So, yeah, so unresolved dream or ideal that has been suppressed or been unable to be fulfilled and now demands exploration, as I said before. Explorations um, of such themes can involve distinguishing whether or not such a dream needs to be physically realized or can exist solely as fantasies fulfilled in the imagination. The necessary discrimination required here is difficult to attain because the skip step involves a struggle to clarify the difference between personal fantasy and objective reality. So I want to reread that. The necessary discrimination required here is difficult to attain because the skip step involves a struggle to clarify the difference between personal fantasy and objective reality. So this placement can lead to a spiritual crisis and transformation. Just as easily, this placement points to someone who has lost their spiritual way, who now wanders meaninglessly in cycles of despair and perhaps is compensating for the loss of drug addiction or other similarly self-abnegating behaviors. In rare cases, this skip step could indicate someone who has been exposed to a psychic attack of some kind, someone who has been possessed by unconscious or astral forces, but because of the possibility for distortion via fantasy and delusion reflected by this placement, this can be an especially problematic case to work with. Now, I usually don't go into the other aspects, that last paragraph I usually don't really talk about because it just seems a little bit wild to me. Um, like I just can't, I'm not a psychic. I can't, um, make sense of that. So, um, hold on just one second. But yeah, I think the big aspect here, and what's interesting too is that the square is coming from, or excuse me, Neptune is in the seventh house. Sorry, I'm just saying, my friend, I have to send him something really, really quick. Sorry. Sorry. So okay, so yeah, I think that the fact that Neptune's in the seventh is, and this is also a theme in this lifetime too. It's telling me that relationships, so most likely romantic relationships, were the cause of everything I just spoke about, right? So it could be the case that you sort of lost your spiritual way because of um like if like for example, let's say you're a spiritual person, right? And South Node Pisces, they tend to be. I'm gonna put myself on camera now. So let's say you're a spiritual person, but you get with someone, right? Like in a relationship who isn't like that at all. But then you lack the boundaries to kind of, you know, make things good, right? So over time, that person's thoughts, because the Pisces South Node is, very empathetic and takes in a lot of energy, um, or took on, they start to merge their views and their experiences with that other person. And then because of that, over time, perhaps someone who, was spiritual, was, felt that connection with God, whatever, at the start, starts to lose it over time. When the big part that stands out to me there is um someone who has lost their spiritual way. So that really brings me back to like the low Pisces energy, the shadow of Pisces, right? Um, and to have so much Earth in your chart, you're here to really, really be grounded and really, really, really. But like the thing is, okay, now it kind of makes sense in my head that why it's in the 12th house. So it's like something happened like with your root chakra, with your feeling of security, right? Like you were too kind of like up in the sky, just like your north node in midheaven, or south node in midheaven. You were too up here, right? So in this life, you're supposed to ground that spiritual energy and create something tangible out of it, while also, really, really spending a lot of time in a more logical manner, always distinguishing between, for example, even in astrology, right? Like, you have like these people who post bullshit, and then you have people who post real shit, like on Instagram and stuff, right? Or in readings like this. So it's like being able to distinguish, like for example, like you have some posts on IG that will talk about stuff that's just fantasy, like there's no like different asteroids, for example, that really don't matter, unless they're being um unless they're conjunct your sun, your moon, your ascendant, right? There's no way that, like, if there's like tens of thousands of asteroids, that they can all, play a part in your psyche, right? And stuff like that, right? But that's just an example. But the point is that like Virgo North Node, it is a daily. It's about it's like how are you grounding your energy on the daily, right? So yeah, it's a really, really interesting chart. So with Neptune there in this life, let me get my special crystal. The interesting thing is that there still can be confusion in relationships. But you can also you're meant to have very spiritual relationships. Um, and because, Sagittarius is the planet that rules your seventh house, your descendant, these relationships are meant to expand you, right? So it could be with someone from a foreign place, um, but it's not necessarily even that. It's just like not being with someone that limits your, like, you want to be. you want to be with someone where anything is possible, like where you have that feeling that anything is possible. And yeah, there's a lot of people that exist in today's world that you go around their energy and you can be in this very like optimistic kind of dreamy place, and they just kind of bring you down. And of course, like it's good to have like a grounding influence, right? And be logical to an extent, but there's always that balance between like, are you being logical or are you just being cynical? Um, are you actually truly giving things a chance? Um, so I think another big thing about South Node Pisces is like there can be a tendency, yeah, like I said, dissociation. So Virgo North Node life lessons could really be about being here in the now, right? Um, like really just like every day having your routine. Like for a Virgo North Node, what you eat, your sleep, your these very mundane daily tasks have a spiritual component for you, right? And then um also obviously, like the not giving up on your dreams, right? Making plans and sticking to them and having like, okay, this is step one, this is step two, this is step three, and being having all this Taurus, that is, Taurus and Capricorn and Virgo, mostly I would say Taurus and Capricorn even more, those signs are the best for being able to like be consistent over time with something, right? Um, Now there's a big part of your chart about service. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I want to just really focus on the nodes here. So I talk about boundaries. So you're here, like with Saturn there, it's about enforcing your boundaries, and it's about you seeing yourself and you kind of growing into this very responsible, self-sufficient version of yourself that doesn't depend on anything external, any external validation, that doesn't have any indecision, right? So, and yeah, so like and part yeah, so that's really really important, because in past lives there's been these situations and relationships that have kind of led you, like the metaphor I always give is like, do you want to be like, it's like you either are like a pebble, and when there's a storm it gets pushed away all over the place, out of your control, or you're like this immovable rock, right? And you want to be like this immovable rock, right? Hold on, just one quick second. Sorry. Hold on. I just was having a conversation. Yeah, so I think, yeah, just self-discipline and just consistency is really the name of the game. And a lot of times people with this nodal axis, as kids, they're very, very, they feel, a lot of times they do feel that connection to the divine and to something. Um, they feel like at one with the world, right? And very sensitive to other people. And with your 12th house, I would tell you that you need to spend time alone. Um, that you just really like, boundaries is such a massive word for this chart. Um, because when you're really discovering who you are, it's very, very important where you live, where you work, who you're, who you're with, friends, partner, etc. Right? all these things matter, right? All the little aspects. That's Virgo, right? It's like how all the little things equal the whole. And Pisces is the dream, it's the inspiration. Virgo is, how we take that and make something out of it. What good is a dream is a dream if there's no application? I could sit here and say, as a Pisces, oh, I want to be like a massive, I want to create this massive YouTube channel or whatever, right? But if I just sit and do nothing, what's going to happen, right? Or I could have this amazing idea of, um, you know, like I said earlier, like a music video or a movie or whatever, or a design or anything, or invention. But it's about that application, that daily grind. And the good thing is you have a lot of energy in your chart that is helping you with that. Um, so yeah, South Node, like it's not a mistake that I have so many clients with South Node and Pisces. It's not a mistake. Um, and they're regardless of what placements they have, they are very spiritual people, you know, and very compassionate people. Um, so another aspect, like I want to go into all possibilities, right? Sometimes Pisces can be very self-sacrificial, right? So this could even be the chart of someone who was a martyr or who sacrificed themselves and that was their dharma, right? Was fighting for something they believed in on a deep, deep level. And they made some ultimate sacrifice based in compassion, right? So, but like also it could be someone who, yeah, who, like I said earlier, like who was gullible and because they didn't have their energy grounded, like a lot of Pisces can, whether it's substances or whatever it is, they can do things that kind of make them more susceptible to being, because like Pisces is the idealist, right? So like they come in this cruel world and they want to see the best in people. And so it could have been something like and that could also be the square with Neptune. Yeah, that could really represent like being tricked in some way by a partners, right? So I'm laying out lots of different options to give you an idea because your soul will connect you know with what I'm saying. And I think like when I do these readings, I like to give a lot of potentials because I feel like you'll feel in your body when something feels right, you know? Um, so yeah. Another aspect of Pisces too in the lesson of North Node Virgo is that it's about learning to have self-compassion and learning to like it's like it could this could literally like this could speak to someone who was an amazing healer and had so much compassion for other people and did such great things for other people, but then when it came to themselves, they didn't have that same thing for themselves, right? So, um, because you have all this Taurus, this more rational energy in this life, it's about using that to, to help create, um, that like that. Taurus is very connected to, I would say, the root chakra. Like, very Taurian people are very grounded in the here and now, right? And so it really your natal chart really is helpful in that respect. Um, but yeah, the boundaries thing is so massive. And Virgo is about service, right? Both of these signs, this is the act of service, right? So it could also be like that in this life, you're regardless of what happened, you're here to take the gifts that you learned and that maybe, maybe things sidetracked you before. In this life, there's more of a sense of focus and determination, and you're here to really, really like be like you're here for the to be there in the physical realm, to make an impact. Um, so yeah, like North Node Virgo, like yeah, service is what will make you feel fulfilled. And just the Virgo type of service, they want to be like, you know, it's like more of like a professional type of accomplishment, right? So really, really benefiting other people. But once again, always that balance between coming back to yourself and having boundaries, even if it's with your clients, if you're doing work like that, right? Um, so yeah, it's a lot of people with this yeah, have like it's yeah, it's kind of like a more, what's the word? It's like a more tangible type of service, right? So, and that can be anything. Um, so yeah, it can make one, really, really wanna. It's just all, yeah. I mean, everything comes down to being grounded in the present. And also, hold on one second. One sec. I'm gonna pause this. All right, sorry for that stoppage. My girlfriend has some really bizarre medical thing. Like her tongue, like a week ago, like stopped. She can't like feel it or like taste anything from it, and doctors like can't figure out what it is. Super weird. But anyways, as I was saying, yeah, so grounded spirituality is kind of the name of the game here. Grounded service. And not getting entangled in different things that kind of keep you away from that earthly progress, right? Learning to say no is like, I'll repeat things that are so important, right? And I think another thing about Pisces South Node, yeah, like I've kind of mentioned this, but like, yeah, like Pisces can like really, because they're so spiritual and so in the ethereal realms, they can like lose care of their physical body. So a North Node in Virgo is like all about the physical body. That's like why, like it's like really like ruling the importance of taking care of that and understanding that, all, like for example, like let's say there's drugs or alcohol, right? Lights and incense. Um, like, which is like, a very Piscean thing, right? So someone can be like very spiritual, but then also like use substances. Um, so it would be realizing the effect that, for example, a substance could be having on one's spiritual outlook, right? And also just like how good or how bad someone takes care of their body. Like, you have to have like a your body has to be like, with the whole thing with yoga, right? It's like they say the point of yoga, of real yoga, is to be able to have your body in a way where you're able to be good for meditation, right? So that, I think, speaks volumes of the importance of just really, really caring about the physical body. So yeah, just yeah, taking that innate creativity, not heading towards escapism, and just, yeah, really having a strong work ethic, not giving up when life pulls you back. Just you know and also knowing that, like, a lot of people with this, um as I hinted at before, like it's difficult, like they're the helpers, that they struggle to ask for help from other people. So learning to accept help and knowing that, like, your importance and your value is not based on make on your ability to take care of everyone, um so it can be very, very overwhelming to feel like you have that massive responsibility. So another thing I would say is, like, your dreams, your intuitions, anything that, like really, like learning to kind of really dial in on those too, right? And learning, like I said, with grounded spirituality, right? So whether it's dream journaling, um, even learning something like astrology, right? That's like a really good way to ground one's spirituality, because astrology is a spiritual journey in itself, right? Numerology. Um, but yeah, really, that, you have that gift, that intuitive gift. So it's like, yeah, how can we you know combine that with logic and planning to really make something. Hey, Mika. So, and a lot of times, like, there's like people with this have like big, big goals, and I always say, like, they see the goals as this massive mountain, right? And it's about being able to, like, instead of seeing, and then it becomes so massive and so scary, like it's like that, it's like an insurmountable mountain, like, but the metaphor I give is, like, instead of seeing it as one big mountain, break it down into like a lot of mini hills, right? It becomes a lot easier that way. So yeah, just all about practicality, um and being in the present moment, and being in the here and now, and taking, yeah, taking that intuitive kind of dreamy side, and still having that, but not escaping your responsibilities and not escaping your mission here, right? So yeah, I think self-discipline is huge, huge with this, and that comes from routines. And I think, like, working out is huge for North Node and Virgo. Diet, sleep, as I said before. Mental health also big. Um, so yeah, really the balance between mind, body, soul, right? That's kind of how I would put it all together. And yeah, just the fact that it's down there in the fourth, to me, is just speaking to, like, also the importance of family, um, in the home life, but really just like I take it more as like the importance of focusing on your internal life, and knowing that, like, for example, in past lives, like, everything in life is, there's foundations to everything, right? To every relationship, to every business, right? To every idea, there's foundations. So in this life, you're here to really build those solid foundations. And then your midheaven's still in Pisces, right? So you still could have a very, like, this is the chart of someone who would, work with clients in a spiritual way, right? Because the ruler of the midheaven is Neptune conjunct the ascendant, which rules clients. Could even be like, spiritual relational type stuff, right? But it's just really about understanding that for you to be able to fully show up in the best way in this world, you have to focus on yourself. um so, and I think the Saturn with North Node, it just shows me, because it's opposite the South Node, that makes me think that it was something societal also that was blocking you, whether it was like, you know the prevailing, like, let's say you grew up in a time that was in somewhere that was very, very traditional, very religious, very prohibitive in that way, from spirituality and from fully, like, accessing the imagination. So in this life, it's like the high level of Saturn is that courage, right? um and that organization and that purpose. So yeah, I get a good amount of these North Node Saturns, and I always think, like, it just doubles down what I've been saying, of like the need to kind of like learn the lessons of the spiritual. Now, also, your Saturn's on the IC, So that would make, that brings up family and childhood. And people with Saturn in the IC tend to have had like a pretty restrictive childhood, right? Now, this goes all the way back to the career too, because I have Pluto in the IC, so I'm aware of how this works. Um, so having Saturn on the IC, usually like the person had like a lot of responsibilities early on. And there's a lot of like family responsibilities that need to be attended to before they can truly succeed publicly, right? And because the South Node is in the midheaven, there is that tendency to want to leave that behind and go towards the Dharma, go towards the career, right? And it's not that you're not supposed to, it's just that you have to back to foundations, right? Um, deal with that. So Saturn I see, yeah, like very like it's usually like usually it's a childhood that was, parents that were quite serious, and um so a lot of times it's like, family that, yeah, was quite serious and usually not so supportive. Um and people with that tend to not have had that like firm, just like, like that push that they needed from their parents, to have the confidence to kind of move forward, right? um so yeah, a lot of times it is yeah, and I've also seen that show up in, these cats are so crazy. Cats, come on. Ina, come on. Nila. Yeah, I've seen that show up in ways, especially with a lot of earth in the chart, with perfectionism, where it was like a family system where one's value, you can see this little schmook. Baby. Loves the snow. It's her first snow ever. But yeah, we're like one's value, or you know how like one felt that the only way that they could get love was by how good they did at school, or how good they did at sports or something like that, right? So ultimately, as you grow older, it's about building a very solid foundation within yourself, as I've been saying, and within your own um home life, like having like your like home be this very solid base, especially with all the 12th house. Like you want to have somewhere that you can always retreat to, right? That feels very safe. Um, and you know, just dealing with anything, like there's lots of lessons, lots of very karmic lessons from childhood, and a lot of times people hold on to that baggage and push it away, but and don't deal with it, but it actually has an effect on their career. Um, when they actually deal with that energy, then all the things that they want to happen career wise start to happen, right? Um, so yeah, like a lot, yeah. So it's like, yes, there is one, one could say there is no point in holding on to the past, right? Um, and it's better to kind of focus on right now, the current moment, what, the foundations we can build now. But like for example, let's say example like because I don't see like with your moon, for example, and your like I don't see hard aspects with your sun or your moon, right? So that, and I see good aspects, right? So that usually indicates positivity with parents. But then Saturn on the IC is, that's not that, right? That's indicating some difficulty, right? Um, and a lot of times, yeah, like but like if like said, let's say there was, because but like even like the 12th house sun, a lot of times that represents like a father that was like not present, or had like a weak influence, or just wasn't able to provide in the way that he needed to, right? Um, so let's say, for example, like there's a resentment, or that there is something, because sometimes like the stuff with parents, it's so tricky. Like, I base my astrology off of kind of what I learned through sessions, through feedback and follow-ups, right? And um, the stuff with parents has always been really tricky. And um, I look at it more psychologically, in the sense that for whatever reason, like there, it was there's just something that kind of will hold, that can feel, especially for the first 30 years of your life, that is kind of very restrictive internally, right? And it can be very hard with icy Saturn to like fully let go, and to fully allow oneself to be vulnerable and whatnot, right? Um, but yeah, if there was something bad with the parents, it would be about letting go of the resentment, right? Because we can hold on to resentments our whole life, and even if a parent passes away, like, that's in my own family, right? Like I had to like really teach my dad about letting go of his resentment towards his dad, right? Who's a narcissist, who is a narcissist, who's still alive. Um, because it's just toxic. What's the quote is, having resentment for someone is like drinking poison and thinking it's like drinking poison and thinking that someone else is going to get poisoned by it, but really you get poisoned by it, right? So I always tell people, one really magical thing is like writing a letter, where you just let everything out, and then you can burn the letter. You can do like some kind of ceremony around it, and just really getting all the emotions out. That's, and really like bringing spirit in that way, and just kind of, and that's also very Virgo North Node, right? It's like really like kind of like making a list of like, okay, what are the things internally that um you know are still fucking with me, right? And getting very honest about that. So okay, so a lot. It's not so you really have very few difficult aspects in your chart, which is good. Um, you do have so let's talk stellium. I want to pull this up in Placidus also. Oh no, because there'd be in Placidus it'd be like a lot of 11th house. But regardless that the 12th house sun is at 29 degrees. It is a very, very karmic degree, because it's the last degree of the sign. So everything related to Taurus, stability, being able to deal with change, right? Like sometimes Taurus have have issues with stubbornness, right? Um, and it's the opposite sign of Scorpio, which is all about death, rebirth, transformation. And a lot of times Taurus can be very, like it can stick to what it knows. Now, like I said, with with all the karmic stuff, you're meant to be like that, right? You're meant to, you're meant to have this Taurian groundedness. Like you have these energies in you for a reason, because of your past life karma. At the same time, in life, there's gonna there's gonna be situations that show up that really, really test your flexibility, right? And with all that Taurus, it's just very important, when those times come up, to be able to pivot, to be able to see it for what it is, it's a spiritual test, right? And to go with the flow, and allow changes, and be able to let go of things when you need to. Because I always say like on an energetic level, if we think of our life, right? I always use like let's say there's a hundred energy points that we have, right, in our life. Let's say like a relationship we have is like 20 or 30, friends are 20, the work, whatever, right? I believe that when we have that completely full, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when there's outdate when like when we're changing a lot and other people aren't, that let's say we grew up with or whatever, but we still kind of stay with them in our life, that makes it so other energies and other people can't enter, right? So a lot of times, the Taurus energy can have trouble letting go of that. But, more importantly, like, the 12th house, right? It's this very, very mystical house. And it deals with a lot of things, the collective unconscious. Um, it's also a lot. So this is very interesting too, because I call it the house of repressed energies, and also the house of self undoing. And with some of this karmic stuff, we can see how, there's going to be a big a big emphasis in your life. Um, Let me see something real quick, by the way. Yeah, like with your nodal story, with the karmic, everything karmic that I explained. When I talk about self undoing and self sabotaging with Saturn on the IC, it's like the karmic mission for you to believe I deserve this, I deserve more, right? Because a lot of times when I see the 12th house energy, what can happen is that people can, whether it's in relationships or in any type of situation, have like they can have like they can sort of self-sabotage, right? Where and it's very unconscious, and they kind of screw themselves out of different opportunities that way, right? So, um, yeah, but also like whenever I see like any astrologer at any level, if they'd see all that 12th house, they would say, "Oh my God, like the house of karma, like you have to be of service in this lifetime, or you'll be kind of going in this like endless cycles of blah blah blah. Like, you're like, 12th house, you're here, to be, to kind of like to give back, selfless service, right? And deep spirituality. That is true, but the chart's more nuanced than that, right? So, um, what I would say, it's definitely the hardest out of any house to understand, because there's so much to it, because there's just a lot of fog. I mean, it also deals with, the like I said, the collective unconscious, um, secrets, um, you know, uh, hidden enemies, faraway places, right? There's a lot, the mysteries of life. It deals with secluded places, right? Like hospitals and jails and stuff like that, right? So, but also it deals with our own seclusion, right? So sometimes a 12th houser can, it makes one, regardless of whether they have water in their chart or not, they're like a channel for the collective energy. So they take in a lot, so they need to have a lot of time alone, right? To kind of unwind and whatnot. And I think that's another big thing in your chart too, is the balance between that Taurus, which is, Taurus on its own is not like that, right? It's grounded. So I think this actually gives you like this massive advantage where you can actually go into these really ethereal realms. The gates of the unknown are wide open to you, but you can most likely have like a grounded energy in them, if that makes sense, right? I mean, that's the only way I could think of, like a 12th house Taurus stellium. It's like the most stable sign in the most like, so it's almost like entering into like a like you know, a deep ocean storm, but having like the best boat possible, right? I don't know. So yeah, so yeah, the sun isn't the strongest there. Um, and so yeah, like I said, it makes a very like very receptive person. Like their subconscious is very, very open. Their intuition, psychic abilities, all that stuff is very turned on. And a lot of times they're, you know, connected to other dimensions. But yeah, like I've never met a 12th house that's not an introvert. Never. Um, but there's a limit between being an introvert, and you are an Aries moon, the 11th, right? So that's a very social moon sign, right? So this is, we talk about splits in a chart, and most people, I mean, I have one, a lot of people have them, right? Where there's like kind of different parts of in our chart that have very, very, their, you know, their goals are at odds with each other, and it's like, how do you get them to balance, right? Because the Aries moon is a lot more 11th house about socializing, about, you know, it's a need for adventure. Aries moons can, you know, they need to move, they need to be independent, they need to be they need to be on the move, they need to be first, they need to be, you know, pioneers, they need to be, they feel secure when their life has a level of movement, right? And 11th house is the house of friends, the house of humanitarianism, and your deepest goals and aspirations. So being connected to that is also very important, right? But we see that you can only do that if you have that really strong basis within yourself. Um, Another thing about the 12th house, and especially having Venus there too, it's watching out, like any, like you have to really watch out for toxic relationships. I mean, I've seen this in many parts of your chart. Um, some 12th houses I've talked to, they feel as though like there's like they feel very alien, like they don't belong to this world. I think the Taurus would probably minimize that more. Be thankful that you're not a Pisces with all this in Pisces, then I'd be talking to an alien. But yeah, like I said, there is that need um to retreat, and a lot of people with this, they don't like to really necessarily share their, like they're so deep, they don't necessarily like to share that with others. So there is that need every once in a while to yeah, completely retreat, whether even like in a relationship, right? Like, because like having Taurus energy, like if you just read your horoscope online, you'd be like, okay, wow, like, you know, like Taurus, it's very, very touchy, very, it's definitely like a love language that's a lot more about closeness, right? So I would say that like there's probably even in relationships, you know, times where, because what can happen is that you can, that you can what's the word? I'm forgetting English. I'm not speaking enough English. But you can kind of for like combine with someone else's energy very easily, without even knowing it, right? So it's really important, if you're spending a lot of time with someone, to also be checking yourself, in the sense of like, am I losing my own individuality? Because the Aries moon, the moon is what you need, right? That, you know, Aries is very much about the self, right? Um, so Aries moons, they, you know, they have a need to be independent, and so that's what I would say about that. But yeah, just like the whole thing with being a loner, and not, you know, just like that's the extreme. It's like someone who just like doesn't want to trust anyone, and just kind of wants to be on their own, and doesn't express themselves well, and um you know, and because they might be so wise, you know, with your chart, like they might be so wise, and see everything for what it is, and the world is so fucked up, and just feeling like they can't really connect, or like that's one potential I've seen, right? It's like this helplessness where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna give up, you know, and they just kind of stick to themselves. Also, you know, 12th house energy, like sleep is really important. You need a lot of sleep. Um, you know, so, and paying attention to your dreams is really important. Um, and then staying away from it, from addictions, right? Like, 12th house rules that too. So drugs, alcohol, even less obvious addictions like, social media, shopping, whatever, right? Um, but really it comes down to like so someone with this, like there's a lot of capability, but it's like the only thing that can prevent you from achieving your goals is that lack of self-worth that could be if that's present, right? Um, and like I said, a lot of times the 12th house son, the father was absent, right? Whether that's like how he was perceived or actually physical. So now what's interesting about the whole hidden enemy thing, it's kind of nuanced, right? Like yes, it can mean that there's hidden enemies, um, but I think the way I look at that metaphorically, I feel like it has more to do with that hidden enemy being within yourself. For like, I'm not talking to you. I'm just saying in general, 12th house, like the whole self-sabotage potential, right? Self-defeating. So that's why. So everything I'm explaining to you right now is when, why it's recommended that 12th house, and you have Uranus in the sixth too. So like, I have that also. So that just makes someone that like doesn't want to have like a regular day-to-day life schedule. Like, I work really late at night. This is a pretty early reading for me. Um, but yeah, like it creates kind of this very unconventional energy in terms of how you approach your day-to-day life, which is interesting because you have the Virgo North node. So, you might like have a routine that's not like the norm, but works for you, right? But like like with all the 12th house, what I'm saying is that when you give back and when your work is rooted in service, that's how you start to truly feel that self-love, right? Or you're doing something that you really, really, really love, right? That and helping people, Virgo North Node, right? That's what, that's service to people, right? So, that's really it's a big, 12th house sun is a huge career indicator, right? And people with that, they prefer to work on their own. Um, they prefer like more solitary types of professions. Like the one example I like to give is like the person that works at the lighthouse, definitely 12th house sun. But yeah, where they help other people, right? So and yeah, so it really is about, yeah, selfless service, right? And compassion. And through that you feel this collective love and this collective oneness, and then that literally is the bridge that makes everything make sense. It's like when you have a lot of 12th house, it's almost like God saying, you almost have to kind of sacrifice some of what the ego wants, but then you get the greatest gift in exchange. So, yeah, yeah. Also, I think like nighttime, I'm curious to hear, did you get the follow-up? Let me check. You did. Okay, cool. I'm gonna open the email too. I wrote like pretty much wrote down what you said. Yeah, work, dharma, money. So, just wanna like triple check the time. I think I already did with you anyways, but yeah. So, Yeah, Dharma, work, Dharma, money. So yeah, I'm curious how, like, if you're like a night person, because 12th house, yeah, I feel like maybe, you can come alive at night. Um, just a thought. I want that's something if you could get back to me about. I'm not. I'm just kind of playing with the idea of you know, 12th house natives, 8th house natives being more nocturnal, and I just think, yeah, like overall, just like retreat, seclusion, it's so important to your mental and emotional health. And the thing is, like, um, you know, if you're doing some type of work where you're helping other people, it can be a lot, and you can be taking on a lot of people's energy. Now you are built for that because of the Taurus, right? So the Taurus, you're able to stay grounded even in like difficult situations. However, there is a limit to everything. So yeah. Um, okay. So let's see here. Um, so Mercury rules your chart opposite Uranus. Hmm. Also vertex with Uranus. I want to pull this up in Placidus really quick. I like to. I'm starting to kind of go back to like wanting to like work with both. Yeah, because in Placidus, um, it's just Mercury and the Sun at 12th. So yeah, but even like, okay, so Mercury, so you're Gemini rising, right? So Gemini risings are very, very social people. They are people who are very curious. It mixes well with your Aries moon. They tend to talk a lot. They tend to stay looking young as they get old, as long as they, obviously like that is correlated to genetics and to, you know, to stress and stuff like that, right? But yeah, they tend to keep like a youthful energy and a youthful appearance throughout life. And yeah, it just makes one just come off very not fluffy, but very they have a lot to say, and they love to kind of even with the 12th house energy, like they love to kind of, because like looking at your chart from Placidus, right? Venus, Mars, those move to the 11th, right? So from that perspective, that would create someone who is very, very, and regardless, the moon would be there in whole sign, very connected to their friends, very connected to their mission. And just, even having Venus and Mars together, I have that too, together like right next to each other, that creates like a very charming person. When someone who's like very good at like balancing the feminine and the masculine within themselves. Um, Now in relationships, sometimes it can create like very, very high expectations, but we'll talk about that later. But overall, Venus in the 11th, it's good for attracting friends, and Mars in the 11th, it is, it gives like an urge to make many friends, and it can, like the balance of the two, it can sometimes like Mars on its own in the 11th can be like the leader of the group, but Venus can also be the person that's good at diplomacy and working together. So it's a good mix of that. So you'd be someone who's definitely very valued in different organizations, and anything you're a part of like that. Now, um, if we look at it from a whole sign perspective, though, the 12th house, Mars and Venus, it just goes back to the potential for. Let me pull it back up to 12, the whole sign. I just want to see how it looks. Yeah, because even in Placidus, like like Neptune is in the sixth, right? So even though it's on descendant, it's in the sixth. And like having so I have both those two, Uranus and Neptune in the sixth, and I know a lot of people that have it there. And these are not like when you have that energy, it's like it is like you need spirituality, dreaminess in your everyday life. And it makes it really, really hard to have like a monotonous kind of job that you're not passionate about. Um yeah, Neptune can really it can just yeah, it can be very, very difficult, right? And it can just make that like let's say like you're like working like a corporate job that you hate. Neptune in the sixth and then Uranus in the sixth makes you want to be very entrepreneurial and do your own thing and not be told what to do by anyone rebellious in nature. Like kind of like a method to your own madness, right? Not have some like boss looking over you saying like do this, micromanage. But yeah, like when I see that, I always think of like a very good for like a spiritual entrepreneur or someone who works in like a helping field, right? Because they're able to get that Neptunian energy through the sessions with their clients. And then, Uranus, you're able to make your own schedule, right? To an extent. And you have sort of, and it can also, Pisces, midheaven, right? So it's like, um, the midheaven is related a lot to your career and to your dharma. So it's ruled by Neptune the seventh. So seventh whole sign, sixth um classes, regardless of whatever way you take it, it's like someone who wants to be a spirit, who is here to to give back, and they might go through different career changes. And there's south of there would mean that there'd be a lot of karma with your career, right? So there could be like a lot of been there, done that with different things that happen to you career wise, right? Different opportunities and whatnot. Um, so yeah, it's just really about like serving humanity through your career. And sometimes people like with that can feel a little bit overwhelmed by those major life decisions. But my advice with that is just to always follow your heart, not what the ego wants, what the heart needs, what the soul needs. Example, and I'm sorry, I really don't like to talk about myself. I don't. It's just like I give like little examples here and there. I once had a decision between going to international business school and a school in Boulder, Colorado that's like a hippie school, spiritual school called Naropa. And like the business school was ego wants, right? The spiritual hippie, learning like transpersonal psychology, that was like the soul needs. And that was like when I first decision I made truly based off of what my soul needed, and it pushed me into this whole direction I'm in now, right? So it just shows that when you follow that, um, when you follow that, good things happen, miracles happen, synchronicities happen. You start meeting the right people, right? And yeah, so I would say with work and career, I know that was a big thing you wanted to know about. I just think with any Aries moon, they want to be in control of their own destiny. But I think at the same time, you could still be someone that could work with other people. I just think that maybe more like I don't know, and that could even be like North Node on with all that Taurus energy and North Node on your Saturn, like that could be someone who's meant to be a boss, meant to be the boss, the leader, right? But yeah, with midheaven and Pisces, like I said, um, it's a mutable midheavens. They a lot of times they switch careers throughout their life, and have different phases. So yeah, who knows? Maybe when I mean it happened many years ago, but when Neptune was first in Pisces, it would have been over your midheaven. And I imagine that I can't tell you the exact time. Let me see if I can search. Okay, so it would have been. So yeah, my guess would be probably around 2013-ish. I mean, it entered in 2011, 2012, but um, it got to midheaven probably, yeah, more so around, yeah, 2012, 2013. So maybe that would have been a time where you could have had like a massive spiritual, maybe like a career shift that was in a more spiritual direction of who knows. But yeah, so that's like a lot of what I see there. Um, you're very tapped in, so Mercury rules your chart, opposed Uranus. So, and Chiron, so you have Chiron also in the 12th, right? In Taurus. And so this all makes sense to me because I see this in a lot of charts, where you it's like that's like a genius energy, just so you know, right? It's like a genius energy to have Chiron there, or to have a Mercury and Uranus in an aspect. But what it can do is it can make the mind like so many downloads. Like I wouldn't be surprised if you were psychic, right? So many downloads and so much coming in. And it also makes someone like very unconventional, very outside the box type thinker, right? So what can happen early on is that they can have philosophies and ideas that are a lot different to other people. Um, so Mercury is, it's what, like, it's 9 degrees away, so it's not like a tight conjunction. I wouldn't even know if I'd call that a conjunction, but like regardless, like it, there is some level of pain, right? Like that can come when you have all these outside the box ideas and people don't understand what you're saying. They um especially when young, right? I see this in so many charts, I'm telling you. And a lot of times people it affects their self-esteem, right? Because they start to think, oh, maybe there's something wrong with me or wrong with the way I'm thinking. And Chiron and Taurus, I connect that with a lot. I mean, it goes back. It's all about trusting the self, right? It's all about trusting the body. A lot of people with that, they don't trust the body, right? They might have issues with their body. And self-esteem. So it really speaks to something I've talked about many times, right? Which is this need to kind of be in the physical plane and to really find that sense of self, because the 12th house can be so murky that it can be very easy for one to get lost in other people's opinions and other people's ideas of what they're supposed to be doing. But yeah, with Mercury ruling the chart, making it a stronger planet in the 12th, you're a sponge for collective energy. Um, you see the psychic undertones to everything. But yeah, I mean, you have like criticism can really be difficult for you, right? So, mm, so yeah, um, yeah, I guess I would see Chiron in Taurus is, yeah, it's that search, and it's in the 12th house, so that is obviously very mystical, um but it can be also a lot, right? Where one experiences a lot, like I was just saying with the Mercury and Uranus, where they're like they can't make sense of all that they're taking in. and there's no words for it, right? So finding like, and then that goes back to your Pluto too. If you're an artist, that'd be amazing. I'd be so happy because Taurus is ruled by Venus and you have Pluto in the fifth house. That would be like one of the best things for this chart would be like having like an artistic creative outlet, because that's a way where you're able to get out this energy, right? Um, so yeah, I think the 12th house Chiron is really about it, like it's like pain, it's like shame around your gifts essentially, and learning to accept and love those more right brain parts of you, right? Um, so yeah. Um, but yeah, it's very, very intuitive, and the mind just wants to go very, very deep into everything, right? Um, lots of inner knowing, lots of innate knowing, like just knowing someone like right away. This person's good. This person's not good. You know, I can trust this person. I can't trust this person, right? So it really is like with that, when I connect it to everything, I think that this is the process of you allowing your past life gifts to emerge in this life, not have shame over them, right? Because there's a very high spiritual purpose for you. Um, so yeah, there's just like yeah, like a very like just lots of personal like a very deep sense of creative personal destiny, right? But there is that need to really look and release whatever the ego is holding on to, and allow one to connect to, you know, these this oneness that is, right? And seeing the world through the metaphysical footprint you leave as opposed to the physical. Because, you know, Taurus is about money, right? And like in Holstein, you know, in Placidus, excuse me, you have a second house Jupiter, which is the financial guardian angel, right? So that's usually a very good placement for money. um, and that's not bad, you know, that's not bad. Like money is important. I made a video about it that I didn't release today, but maybe I'll release it. But you know, it's not a bad thing. It's just all about balancing it, right? Because if that's the only focus, what's likely to happen is, eh, you know, you just have to be filling up your spiritual cup on a daily basis, essentially, right? Not just spiritual, physical, psychological, everything, right? It's a daily thing. Um, but like a lot of times with displacements, like like people like are a lot closer than they think to accomplishing like their ideal goal, but there is some ego attachment that's holding them back. So it is like a need to master this detachment, right? And kind of being okay with being different. And then everything opens up. And yeah, I always think Chiron Taurus people like benefit from anything that makes them feel beautiful, you know, anything that makes them feel you know, good in their own body. Yoga is, I always say that's a great one. But you have so much Taurus, I imagine that yoga probably like I would be surprised if you didn't do yoga. This chart like screams yoga. But yeah, the 29 degree, let's talk about that a little bit more. So it's the anaretic degree. So you probably notice, you know, when the sun or when any sign, like we just had Mars and the sun in Scorpio at 29 degrees, how it was really intense, right? Um, so, you know, it's a very, very important uh, point. Um, and what can happen is that there can be a lot of issues with decision making. Um, and lots of like kind of going back and forth. And you know, there can be like a big lesson here around trusting the divine. And it's good that it's in Taurus because that is a good sign for staying course. Um, but yeah, there's also like a sense of urgency and intensity with 29 degrees. Like you're here like to get something right. You know what I mean? Um, so, you know, it can be a little bit, there could be, yeah, there can sometimes like even like in progressions, for example, like if like a 29-degree progressed sun, usually people have like quite a few crises in their life, right? That year. Um, and so it really does bring up lots of changes. And just the need to have adaptability and lots of fate around the life purpose, right? So it just goes back to the need to kind of just be very, very grounded in yourself and and not jump on anything because it's the degree of fate, right? It's the final degree. So you know, it it just makes it makes it so a lot in life, and 12th house is very fated too, right? So fate does rule a lot in your life, but at the same time you're existing within that in your own free will. So it's like an arena, it's like a circle that you're in, and as long as you're in that circle, right? Um, you're good. But if you leave it, then you get kicked back in it, right? Um, so yeah, there is like this just feeling of like finality, like the end of a cycle in this lifetime, the end of like a familiar path, right? Especially in the 12th house, which is the house of endings. So that's like some real enlightenment shit, like really trying to master something spiritual. I want to put in your numerology. Um, Let me see this really quick. I don't know your name, but you're the second person I've ever done this for. Yeah, so you have a karmic debt number. Wow, 16. So you're a seven life path. Um, so yeah, I mean that's the the philosopher, the the learner, right? The person who is more withdrawn, very spiritual, and um very contemplative and whatnot, right? So they can be quite isolated. But let's see, is this the one that I haven't? Is that the one that? Yeah, the seeker of truth, solitude, working alone. It's a lot that I've been talking about, right? If isolation is brought to the extreme, you can become cynical and suspicious, and you can develop hidden selfish motives, which people may sense, and this may cause them to be uncomfortable around you. You must guard against becoming too withdrawn, too independent, thus shutting out the love of others and keeping you from experiencing true joy of friendship and close companionship. Watch out for selfishness. Secretly, you may feel jealous of the easy relationships formed by others. You may perceive others as less inhibited than you or more free to express themselves. You may harshly criticize yourself for not being more gregarious, powerful, or capable of great leadership. Your challenge in life is to maintain your independence without feeling isolated or ineffectual. You must hold fast to your unique view of the world while at the same time being open to others and to the knowledge they have to offer. So important with Taurus too, because sometimes Taurus can not be open to other people's ideas, right? But an open-minded Taurus is the best. But yeah, with your abilities to learn, analyze, and seek out answers to life's important questions, you may have the potential for enormous growth and success in life. By the time you reach middle age, you will radiate refinement and wisdom. Pythagoras, who lived more than 2,500 years ago, is often called the father of numerology, loved the seven for its great spiritual potential. And this person can often find success and satisfaction in business, science, religion, insurance, invention, the occult, and anything related to research. Okay, so yeah, your karmic debt was 16. So that's one I haven't really seen. So, so it means destruction of the old and rebirth of the new. The 16 is about the fall of the ego. Wow, this is so crazy with how this mixes with my 12th house analysis. Fall of the ego and all that it has built for itself. It is a watershed, a cleansing. All that has been constructed and all that serves to separate the person from the source of life is destroyed. Through the 16, reunion with the Great Spirit is accomplished. This can be a painful process because it usually comes after much ego inflation. This results in a struggle between the ego and the divine will. Life presents challenges to your grand plans, which can be resented and struggled um, against. It is a lost battle, and you'll likely feel humbled in the face of the collapse that follows. This humility is the key to later success. Hold on. So yeah, the humility is the key to later success. However, because you will learn to follow the intima- intimations of a higher reality. In the destruction of the old, a spiritual rebirth takes place with an entirely new awareness. This rebirth affects every area of your life. It is a life much better for the fall. Those with this karmic debt must be careful of egotism. Very often, those with this use, and also you have Black Moon Lilith in Leo, which I would say is in line with that statement, right? Where it's like the dark side, but then so interesting because it contradicts so much of what I was saying about like, you know, karmic tendency to be like overly giving. Hmm. Well, you'll tell me. So careful of egotism. Very often those with the 16 use their highly intuitive and refined intellect to look down. Okay, so I see it. I see it. It's less ego in the sense of like outward, but more of like potentially like inward. Like yeah, like look down upon others and view the rest of the world as inferior. Like kind of what I was talking about before, right? Like and I have something similar so I can relate where it's like someone was telling me about this what was the term uncommon common knowledge, right? So for people like me and you, it's very obvious. But then we look at the world around us and we're like, how do you not fucking get this shit? Like how? It's so fucking obvious. And it makes us like this tough challenge of like, you know, are we gonna connect with the world around us? Is it worth it? Um, so this causes acute alienation and loneliness. In addition, it invites retribution for the egotist is humbled more harshly than any other. When the 16 is one of the core numbers, this process of destruction and rebirth is a continual cycle and actually serves to bring you into higher consciousness in closer union with the source of life. The karmic debt can be a path of progress and great spiritual growth if it is looked at properly. One develops great faith by placing one's life in the hands of God. Through such faith, gratitude and peace are firmly established. Let's see. Yeah, so it makes perfect sense, right? And let me type something in really quick. Just maybe think of something. So yeah, like that's yeah, the challenge is like so like yeah, if one has reached such great spiritual heights, it's like, you could be someone, yeah, who's here to really, really, yeah, ground your gifts, and that could be the challenge, right? Like it's hard, when you know so much. I mean, I was just saying yesterday, like, the more you know, the less you know, or the more you realize, the less you know. But like at the same time, it's difficult, right? It's difficult. So, um, yeah, it's very difficult to kind of deal with this ignorance, this collective ignorance. And there's just that part of you that wants to be like, fuck it. Hold on one sec. Interesting. I just realized something about numerology. Wow. Okay, I need to write that down because I did not realize that. Where's my pen? I didn't realize that you can have karmic debt numbers, because when I was reading that, it was like saying like for different parts of your chart. I thought it was only for the life path, but it can also be for like your other parts of the chart. Because like I was like realizing like shit, like I think I might actually have what I just read also, because it was so familiar. And then I looked at, I was like, what's my destiny number again? And I calculated in my head. And I was like, oh yeah, shit, I do have that, you know? So yeah. But anyways, let's see here. What should we talk about next? Mm. So yeah, I mean, just in general, like Mercury in the 12th, like the reason you have to like spend time alone, or what, like it just, yeah, it's the introspective person, but you can just take in so much of the energy around you that it can just be very overwhelming, you know? So just, yeah, having boundaries in that sense is very important. Very, very important. Um, and like also having a like just, yeah, like I would meditate and just like see what downloads come in. But like a lot, like Uranus, Neptune opposition, sometimes it can just like piss people off. It can bring like arguments of people who just really disagree with you or your way of seeing the world, and just like leads to like a shutdown. Um, and it can also be linked to like ADHD, or just like the brain moving too fast, like so much stimuli coming in. That's very psychic. It's a gift. It's a fucking gift. So yeah. Okay. Let's see here. But I think also like the fact that it's in Taurus, like Mercury in Taurus usually is very grounded in more traditional, logical, um, I guess more left-brained. So it does kind of balance that out for you in a sense, which is good. So I do think that you have the ability to really like, for example, like I already mentioned research, but just get really, really deep into like combine intuition with logic, right? Like a lot of Taurus Mercury's like they want to have like proof. Like for example, like when I'm doing my astrology, like I want to like yes, this is actually a good example. I'm sorry to bring myself up. I'm so like self-aware when I bring myself up. But like yes, like I'm doing astrology, which would be 12th house, right? But I'm doing it in a way that's very logical. Like, you know what I mean? Like where like in the sense like where I want like I'm not going to talk about something that I haven't proven in my own head. So like you see how these two things like so it's kind of like you can be like that in your own spiritual um studies. So yeah, I definitely could see you being a very gifted yeah, like just very, very intelligent. I mean, in Jupiter in the third and whole signs, it's just a great thinker, a great talker. Um, so I'm curious, like, if you do have like two sides where one's very introverted, one's like very active, because Gemini risings are always pretty active. And then the third house Jupiter, it just, I've never met one that doesn't want to share information, especially in Leo. In Leo, Jupiter is one of my favorite Jupiter positions because it just makes like an inner child, like just they usually love children too, and they're just I get a lot of people with that. I always love them. Like they're always just like even if they have like very solemn placements, eh, they're able to just like put a smile on my face, and they seem to just be just oozing with optimism often, right? And very very generous and smiley. I was very smiley, but yeah, like it's just like always looking to expand the mind. And then if you want to have the Placidus definition, that is like I said, the financial guardian angel, right? So that's someone who you know, someone who gets like I always give this example and like a few times it's actually come true. It's like the person loses their job, they think it's the worst thing in the world. Then 2 weeks later, their friend calls, says, "Hey, my company's hiring. I know you're out of a job." And then all of a sudden, boom, you know, they have like a better paying job, better work-life balance, like better everything. So yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, Aries moons also like, they have to watch out for anger. They can be a little bit hot-headed. Um, Great leaders, very, very, very strong, resilient, but they can be a little bit emotionally impulsive, which I'm dating an Aries moon, so or I more than dating. I mean, we've lived together for 5 years now. But she's very like just says it how it is, right? That's how most Aries moons are. Like they just kind of like they're not gonna hide from their like they're not gonna be passive aggressive. They're just gonna throw that shit out. And then having Mars in Taurus, like so many of like my most successful, if like financially successful clients have had Mars in Taurus. It's a really good placement for being able to like start something and consistently follow through. Now, you know, in the 12th, it can make one's feel like their sense of personal power is kind of like pushed down or eroded. Um, and there can be like these out of the blue emotional outbursts. Like um, like I've seen someone with this who just always like he was dating my friend who just always like just fuck up like just out of nowhere just like do something just like it was like he was so good and it's self-sabotage super hard. Um, so it all comes down to self-esteem, right? And just like the direction of your life because Mars 12th house like there can be that vague sense of loss of direction, right? Um, but yeah, it's in Taurus it's nice for that. Um, hey, Yasmin, you want to help me? Tell me what to look at the chart. I didn't see what she looked at. Okay, Esme, one more time, please. She was looking at your Aries moon. So interesting. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that like 11th house moon, like a lot of times, the greatest purpose comes later in life. You know, it's not always like so. You know, it's not always like right away. And very connected to humanitarianism and to the collective and whatnot. So that's good. So with relationship stuff, you know, I mean, you have Juno, Venus, Mars, um, yeah, all in Taurus together, like within 1 degree. So basically, you know, you need someone who's reliable. Um, you need someone who's consistent. But at the same time, relationship astrology is so interesting, um, that a lot of times when I see someone who has a lot of energy in one sign or one element, they tend to be with someone that is different, you know, kind of brings something else. But like I do a whole different reading for compatibility where there's like a new chart that's formed between I don't know if you're married or not, but between also like having 12th house Venus, it makes relationships very faded too. Um, like especially June on the 12th, yeah, just yeah, but like really like there's a very deep like a desire to merge with the partner and like Juno and Taurus, I would say like they need to feel very safe, very secure in their relationship. Like it goes back to foundations, right? And just like someone that you know like 1,000% you can trust. They are reliable, like it's not some flimsy thing. Now that's one aspect, right? That's the Taurus side, right? We understand that. It's well defined. Now, the 12th house side is, you know, is this person like mixed with your Aries moon and Gemini rising, like, you know, and Neptune and seventh, we'll get to in a sec. Is this person going to give me the space I need when I need it, right? Am I going to be able to have conversations about needing my alone time, right? Some people can't deal with that. Some people just can't deal with it. So that's all really important. And then, of course, the boundaries thing, right? No toxic people. That's the rule. But and that goes to your Neptune on your descendant, right? So Neptune on the descendant, what can happen is that it can create the rose-colored glasses in love. And people with that sometimes they really have to take relationships slow, which is good that you have Venus in Taurus because Venus in Taurus is good at taking things very slow. Um, it's quite cautious in relationships, although the moon in Aries can be, like I said, emotionally impulsive. So Neptune on in the seventh house, close to the ascendant, it can also be very perfectionist in its like, and that's also with the sun, the Venus and Mars, like I mentioned that a little bit earlier, like being too perfectionist, like with the type of partner and almost unrealistic, like of like the type of partner that they want, like being really disillusioned with any imperfections, right? But the highest energy of the seventh house Neptune is, and also you have to watch out, yeah, watching out for like, you know, the rose-colored glasses in love and the kind of like, you know, lover boy kind of stuff, right? Um, But I would say that because like what can happen with Neptune, it's very spiritual, so you're very intuitive, but sometimes people with Neptune in the seventh house, they can be the ones who try to they can try to be to save other people. Like they can play the role, especially if like the psychological dynamics of childhood, you know, with Saturn on your IC, if you were like having to take a role that was quite mature early on, and if that's like a karmic tendency too, to like be the the caregiver, right? And just exploring different potentials, right? Then that can show up in relationships also, where there's that feeling of like needing to, you know, kind of fix the other person. So, but then, yeah, so yeah, it could be being attracted to someone who needs help, um, or it could be the opposite, like wanting to be saved by others, right? So it really is, and it can really blur boundaries in relationships and create like a certain like also like misunderstandings and like people like ignoring red flags when they come up, right? And getting into committed relationships too fast. That's why I said good you have the Taurus. And then I have a friend who is dating a complete narcissist, like literally like broke up with him, got back with him right again after. Well, I guess now she's an ex-friend because she broke up with me as a friend because I kept it real with her. But the point is that like that energy, it can ignore red flags, right? Like this particular friend I'm talking about, she had told me every sign. Me who studied psychology, 2 masters in psychology, I understand. This kid's like you know 10 years of intense therapy and healing is what he needs, and then maybe he'd be okay. But no, she chose, yeah, just that Neptunian energy and love, just makes us blind to the faults, and then we get hit by reality, and then it's just like shit. But you know, the sign on the descendant, so Sagittarius would describe the kind of partner that you're looking for subconsciously. So open-minded also, right? Able to have a conversation, able to travel, open to new ideas, um, philosophical, someone that you can learn from and learn with, right? But yeah, like it's just like really important to sort out these issues because they can keep repeating if they're not worked on. And I would say like Neptune sometimes in the seventh can be the martyr in relationships. And they can like, and that's also like, like this is squaring your nose. This is potentially a karmic tendency, right? Where they can give up on their own needs in relationships, just and just only give, and kind of like let themselves go. So yeah, that goes back to boundaries, right? Um, and hmm. So also like an interesting thing about the seventh, but it's in the sixth and classes. But mm, if people who have a lot of seventh, like seventh house energies are things that we look for in other people, and that we tend to lack in ourselves, right? So um we seek them, yeah. So like we seek them out in other people, and then kind of project them onto them, right? Um, so it's just really important to not to understand that, right? And to not kind of so like with Neptune, it's like the more, so it's like when you look at each planet in the seventh, it's like if you um are lacking in that spirituality, which I doubt with all the 12th house, then, you know, it could have like a direct correlation to the type of relationship. But if the spirit, if like the Neptunian spirituality is you know is high, I don't know how to say it, then it's good, right? Um, so yeah, but like really, yeah, very, very sensitive to like other people's influence on you. And I think even with like best friends and clients too, just really, really important to surround yourself with good vibes, good people, you know? So relying on that intuition. And it's like I always say with sometimes Neptune, it's like important to like have that trusty friend that you can like talk to and get like if you're I don't know if you're married or not, but like, you know, get the opinion on that other person, you know? So yeah, and there can be lots of like misunderstandings and whatnot in relationships too. Let's see here. Okay. So yeah, really through like building firm foundations and having this like real good stability in your life, that's where, you know, your par fortune in Taurus also, like that's where everything good happens. You know, kind of surrendering to what is, and um yeah, everything I was talking about in the karmic whatever it's called. So yeah. Um, just like alignment with spirit is really really important. And yeah, Ceres on your moon, that makes someone, you know, really want to, yeah, just care for other people, like you know, really a born nurturer is the best way I could say it, right? Um, so I mean, you have healer all over your chart. And it's also very good for relationships with women. Um, so yeah, and even series in Aries, you know, it's like um, you know, you enjoy when others allow you to kind of be yourself and be independent and do your thing, and you're good at giving that to other people. Um, like believing that like the best way to care for someone is to like let them find their way, let them be themselves, right? So like being caged in is not good. Um, Now Venus and Mars are also square Jupiter, so that speaks to like self-discipline, and impulsiveness, right? Like especially like the Venus one can be like a little bit like sometimes it can be a little bit self-centered, a little bit extravagant, enjoying the fun side of life too much. Um, but like I said, like the Taurus energy does balance it out. But like Mars square Jupiter, it's just that need to develop that self-discipline I keep talking about, right? Because it can make one with an Aries moon quite impulsive, um and like overly expansive in a sense, and Jupiter is in a very abundant sign, so it's definitely very very ambitious human, right? But it's about taking these things slow. And then Palace on the midheaven, that is fucking crazy. So that just gives you like this mastermind, like very, very wise in your career. Like I call it like a chess player. Like you're really, really good at knowing like what moves to make, you know, like um like seeing your career as a game of chess. And in Pisces, that's like the open third eye, right? Like a very meditative mind, and um, you know, very, very good at um merging like you know yourself with the universe, right? So the fact that it's on the midheaven is really 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 good, and it shows that you could also be someone that can be very good in business and very good in, you know, making the right moves, you know, knowing what steps to take, right? like in anything like entrepreneurial, right? But you have to be careful if you are an entrepreneur with the business partners that you take on because of Neptune there. Vertex with Uranus, the way I see that is that your doorway to higher awareness. In Scorpio, it's like it's through letting go and through accepting the crazy changes that life throws at you. Um, and also just your own individuality, right? The more that you allow yourself to just be you and find out what that is, the better it is, right? So, um, yeah. Um, what else can I say about sixth house? Yeah, I mean, usually your sixth house Uranus doesn't like routines. I said that quite a bit about it already, but just like yeah, freedom just being so important. So yeah, work environments where there's rules not good. Um, any kind of monotony in the workplace, any kind of routine where it's just repetitive is not good, right? So it makes someone really want to have to really it could even be someone that works in technology, over the internet in some way, but really, really creative also with great ideas, very innovative, like with the Mercury, like you can think of like outside the box ways of doing something that no one else has thought of, like um but you need that freedom to do that, right? So like when you have freedom in a even in a job, when you have freedom, you excel. Um, so also usually sixth house Uranus, there's usually like a pretty unusual job that is a little bit, yeah, it's kind of like carving out your own path. Um, and it can be very up and down, like your daily routine, like some part of your life you can go to sleep really late. Sometimes, it can just, it's very changeable, like in different eras of your life. Um, Also with health, successful is health. So you have to be very like North Node and Virgo, like there can be unexpected changes related to health. So just making sure that you're being good in that domain as well. So yeah. Um and yeah, Pluto fifth house, like that's just the creative destiny, that's the creative destiny. I would say the person with that has to watch out for being a little bit overly domineering, but they're here to, they really want to express themselves creatively, right? But they have to watch out for like that potential obsessive need for attention, right? Um, and with children, if you have children, Pluto fifth house can make someone potentially overly dominant with their children or have like some kind of difficult karma there. So, but yeah, it makes someone like, yeah, very creative. They like risk. So I definitely see lots of things in your chart of someone who can definitely deal with risk. But yeah, definitely hates authority. Um, so yeah, kind of daredevil energy, I would say. Um, let's see. But yeah, like I think like people can get frustrated with this like because they come in this life with this very big creative like feeling of creative destiny. So they can get frustrated if they don't find that because they have there's so much creative energy within them, right? Um, but yeah, I think the big test there is like not becoming bitter if one isn't the center of attention. Um, so yeah, like great for leadership and just yeah, once again finding like a creative endeavors is good too. And mm, Mm-hmm. Sometimes, usually it's more with aspects with the son, but like the father could have been very Plutonian, like kind of controlling and aggressive almost. But that's another one I'm kind of testing out. And I just think that like yeah, there's just a lot of like because like fifth house also rules like speculation, gambling, that kind of stuff, like anything with risk. So and Pluto's a very obsessive planet. So like watching out for like addictions like to gambling or anything like that, right, is important. Um and also fifth house rules like the first stage of love affairs. Um so in romance, like it can create like very, very intense like first encounters, right? Very passionate and they can also be yeah, like it can just like kind of give like a very just like yeah, just like really, really fast, right? Um but it's a lot of times through romance and sometimes it's the shorter ones, right? That a lot of change and a lot of transformation happens, right? Um but yeah, there is like fifth house rules is very, very, very related to sex, so it's a lot of intensity and passion and even like taboo in that area of life potentially. Um, so wanting partners who can also not be like boring in that sense. Um, what else? But also, yeah, like fifth house, Pluto can also in that area can create like a fear of like being betrayed by lovers with Neptune there too in the seventh, right? Um, also like potential like traumatic romantic experiences, right? Like especially if one like manipulative partners, if one like jumps into things too fast. So, but like a lot of times if there are children, yes, there can be like a difficult relationship, but it can be like a very life-changing transformational process where it makes that person like reevaluate everything about their life. They're like and leads them to like great change, even though it might take them down to like the death rebirth transformation of Pluto. But it can create power struggles in relationships with children. Um, and it can make someone like yeah, very, very like protective, sometimes overly protective of them, even possessive, which can make the kids rebel against them, right? So yeah. But then Pluto also rules fears, so there can be like a fear of children, of having children, right? Or like a fear related to the children. But you don't have an afflicted Pluto, so you know that could, if Pluto's afflicted, then there could be issues with pregnancy, but it's not afflicted. Yeah, also you have Saturn, you have Moon trine Jupiter also. It's one of the amazing, like really good aspects. It just, especially like in this chart, like it just makes someone like very like loving the company of other people, very internally optimistic, able to kind of like see the glass is half full, um, especially during tough situations. But yeah, there's a lot of Jupiter energy here. So that like when there's Jupiter, it's just like it goes back to like not taking too much risk, not being too egotistical, that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, like Venus and Saturn try and talk about that, about the love stuff. Like, um, so that's actually really, so I said the thing about business partnerships, that's actually one of the best placements for having good business partnerships. And with partners, it makes one a very dependable, very stable, very loyal partner, one that can have very long-term relationships. um, and attract those. And then Mars trine Saturn, like I keep telling you, like Mars, Saturn, like I see the most success with people who have Mars and Taurus, and even more than that, Mars with Saturn. And that creates like together like a lot of self-discipline as long as you're not your own worst enemy. Because the 12th house energies, when you dive in spiritually, they can become the strongest energies, right? Um, so when you're like being of service and doing all of that North Node Virgo stuff, right? But yeah, like Mars trine Saturn, I mean, that's just like the ultimate like ability to kind of go towards a goal steadily over time and persevere, and to trine, so able to like really organize the affairs very well and discipline oneself very well. Um and just be, yeah, very responsible, very respected. Um so last things, okay, see, so you have, so also Chiron, like being with your Venus and your Mars. Chiron Venus, I see that as like a lot of times there's like this childlike innocence in relationships, and there can be like this like like pain that comes, that leads to healing that happens in relationships. And I've seen that as like a lot of like fear of commitment sometimes, especially if there were painful early relationships. Um, but it definitely is like one of the best placements for someone who can be a healer of other people. It gives that deep compassion. And even like Mars with Chiron, um, a lot of times people growing up with that, they just didn't get their way. Um, and yeah, it's difficult. So it really becomes like it's obviously another amazing one, for helping other people. But it can be, one feeling quite misunderstood, and sometimes feeling like the world is against them and whatnot. Um, and it just goes back to, yeah, focusing on the needs of the collective, right? And kind of that whole soul versus ego dialogue, right? So yeah, really, really good for empathy, for compassion and whatnot. And then Vesta is in Aries in the 11th. So yeah, like that's just like someone who can really work, who can actually, yeah, who can work well um with people who have like similar visions and beliefs with them. Um very, very like someone who wants to work towards the collective good. But like Vesta and Aries, you know, I think that just makes, it's very entrepreneurial again, right? It's like, yes, you can work with people, but um, you're better left to your own devices. And people don't have to check on you. Like, it is very much about self-motivation um, in one's work. And yeah, just like usually liking preferring to work alone. And yeah, let's see here. How long have I been going? Oh my God, another 2 hour one. Jesus Christ, just 2 hours 16. There's just so much to say. Okay, so let's look at. Okay, so Beetlejuice. So you have one of the three. So you can look it up. Hecate, Hekate. You have that rising. That's like one of the three witch asteroids. So yeah, it's connected to all things sorcery, witchy. But then you have Beetlejuice rising. Oh, you have a more on Venus, which is a beautiful placement, that because that's all about unconditional love, and it's in the 12th house, so it's like really giving you, like, for partners, like even if like things don't work out, being able to have like this unconditional. Oh wait, it's on Mercury. Sorry, I read that wrong. If you saw what I was looking, I'll show you what I'm looking at, and you'll understand why it was hard for me to see it. Yeah, I'm like seeing this. Um, but yeah, like that just gives one the ability to really really be connected to universal love and to unconditional love and to kind of like as a healer and just as a human to convey that through their speech, right? And to kind of be able to heal people in that type of way. Um, and even through the way you think, right? It gives like a love for humanity. And yes, there's none over there. Oh shit. Oh my God. So I think you're the first client I've ever had that has Fomalhaut, which is one of the four royal stars. This is very big on the midheaven in a very close range within 0.25. Wow. So that is massive. I just want to like go over everything. Yeah, and lust with Jupiter, that's just like it's just what it sounds like. It just makes someone very, very sexual. Um, and Lilith is there too, which is one of the other witch asteroids. So you have the witch stuff down. These are like cherries on top, but Fomalhaut is not. That is extremely important, right? There's four real stars. They matter most if you have them with your ascendant or with your midheaven, and if they're in very close conjunctions only. So Fomalhaut is like it is just a beautiful star. It is um just the most mystical, magical, um like it's like so poetic. It's like what's the word? Like universe, like it's like the ability to just connect like universal love through creativity. Like it's so powerful. So it creates, yeah. So and the royal stars are what create fame. So um you could literally, have fame just with that one star. And it would be more, Fomalhaut, like I said, it's more in like, in respect to like creativity. Um, Ptolemy said it was of the nature of Venus and Mercury. So, um, yeah, very, very spiritual. It's like it's a star in the mouth of the southern fish, right? So very idealistic, spiritual, gentle, mentally keen. So if the midheaven is how you're seen by like if the ascendant is your personality, right? And the midheaven is how you're seen. I always like to give like social media as an example by the public, right? Um, having Fomalhaut there, it it tends to give, very great and lasting honors, right? Lots of success and very, 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 very spiritual. And yeah, like mm, 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 where's my fixed star book? I'm like pulling out all my books. They're all just scrambling on my table. I haven't pulled this one out in a while. Yeah, but this is really, really important. So, yeah, mouth of the fish. So it says a conjunction with Jupiter or the meridian will bring favor from dignitaries of the church. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to find information on these stars. Like really hard. But what you do know is that there's a star, like they're literally like there's four of them. And I have one. I have Regulus rising. Actually, I have two. I have Fomalhaut on the descendant. But the point is not that. The point is that, this is very close. So Noelle Newman, world-renowned opinion pollster, has Fomalhaut conjunct MC. This is quite significant in her building of a large research institution out of a very small beginning. So lots of artists. Yeah, it's good if it's not with Mars. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think that kind of just puts it all together, right? Like, people that have it conjunct, let's see, Kamala Harris, Theodore Roosevelt, LeBron James, Marie Antoinette. Yeah, so it's Archangel Gabriel. So each one is with a different archangel. Watcher of the South. So the correct pronunciation is Fo Ma Lao. So it's Fo Ma Lao. Fo Ma Lao. So it's known as the solitary one. I like to think of the star as dressed up and looking fine as hell as to attract some company. You see, even as the 18th brightest star in our night sky, Full has no bright star neighbors as he stands to watch over the arrival of autumn, low in the southern sky, but with unshakable dignity. Associated with passionate love affairs, artistic pursuits, and fortunate financial pursuits, this is one of the few fixed stars that historically has overwhelmingly positive attributes. So it's spelled Fomalhaut. Yeah, so it just keeps talking about the spiritual purpose, spiritual path. I mean, it's like the brightest, it's like the best star in Pisces. yeah. So yeah, 2 hours, 30 minutes again. So it was a pleasure. I did yours way earlier. I don't know what. Honestly, like I was going through my list and a lot of them have like read Squarespace, read IG Convo, and I just wanted to like start right away. So yours was like very simple because it just like was like three things you wrote down. So I was like, all right, I'm just doing this one. Fuck it. Even though you, when did you purchase? Let's see. Yeah, you purchased like the 15th. Like, damn. So that's maybe my record. Maybe my record. Definitely. I mean, yeah, I can't remember the last time I did a reading that fast. But yeah, so you have the follow-up. Most people want to add the current astrology to that. So, you have this natal chart done once. It will never change. We have current astrology that's always changing. So it's good to know about. And I basically like, so you already have the follow-up. That's an hour, regardless. Whenever you're ready, we schedule that. I like it to be more client led, so I like people to take notes and come in with questions and just kind of. I mean, I think it's like a puzzle. We're doing this together, comparing your lived experience with what I said. Um, I don't like. I just have to start being more clear about this recently because I had a few times where I felt like I was like redoing the reading during the follow up, but that's because I wasn't clear enough with like kind of the expectation of it. But yeah, it's not like I expect you to come with like homework, but just to have like a firm understanding of everything that we talked about and have like points. So notes, it's probably good. Most people end up watching these through many times. I mean, this is you know, like your life. This is that like this is a very powerful process, and I think one people should take seriously because you can get a birth chart done, whatever. If you really, really do it, take the time, everything sets in, and you understand on a deeper level, and then it becomes more powerful, and your awareness increases because of that. But yeah, so if you want to add the current astrology to that, usually it's like 300 something. I'd be happy to do it for 270 extra. So I'll write that down that I offered you that. And that would make it a 3 hour session. Um, so first hour would be follow up, all about this, and then hour two, hour three would be all about, and of course, obviously it's live, goes without saying, um, all about your current astrology, your transits, your progressions, your solar return, house ingress, everything. Solar arc. I look at everything that I know related to predictive astrology for right now and the year plus ahead. So you kind of know what to expect. And it's just great to chat, and great to have those sessions. It's always very magical. Um, but regardless, let me know what you want to do. Take your time. And the follow up, it's whenever you're ready, just message me, email me, jesseannisonastrology@gmail.com is easier for me. And set something up. All right. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.